Hey, money magicians, how are you? I'm in Sri Lanka. It's really sweaty. So if you see me once in a while, I'm really sweaty. So if you see me once in a while, wipe my face, just bear with me. It is hot. Like Sri Lanka is hotter than India at the moment. Like when I was in Goa, I was like, okay, if Goa is having cool evenings and like the days are a little cooler, then for sure it should be easier. So this was in January when I was in India, and then I was like, no, came back to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was boiling. Left Sri Lanka, went to Laos on the 14th of February, went to Kuala Lumpur, then went to Laos, got to Thailand, and came back to Sri Lanka. And I still feel like out of all these countries that I've been to in the last few weeks, Sri Lanka has got to be the hottest. So, yeah. Anyway, I want to talk about because, okay, so it's very fascinating the responses I've gotten. Oh God, let me start by introducing myself. I never do. So if you've just joined us, welcome to the Facebook group. My name is Vangile, and I am the founder of Wealthy Money. And I'm usually the person that posts a lot on the group. And I teach women how to heal their ancestral money stories so they can live their best lives. But more than that, actually start creating wealth and start building themselves up towards passive income, which is why Mizo and I also host the Property Magicians podcast, right? So that as well, mostly the money magic students, what has happened over time is that people come into my money magic course and they go, oh, I want to pay off debt. And a lot of the students end up paying it, right? So shares a story about how she paid off 150,000 Rand in debt in like, I don't know, 3, 4 months or 6 months of the course. I don't know. I know it was less than 6 months or thereabouts, right? And so what happens when you do that, right? So most of us come from backgrounds where we don't really, where we think, okay, it's just about paying off debt. And I come from there. So when I started doing this work, I was teaching more the work around the bank account challenge, right? Which is if you heart, mind, and money, that's what you see. Like I'm teaching about emotional intelligence, how to curb spending, debt, all those things. But the truth is, once I paid off debt, I got to the point where I realized that actually that doesn't mean financial freedom. I used to talk about, I'm going to be financially free, I'm going to be financially free, and then paid off my debt and I wasn't financially free. So I was like, great, the stuff that I teach in the bank account challenge helped me get there, which is why I then created the money magic course because what I was learning in the bank account challenge and that work was how to spend less and just spend less money and control my spending habits, etc., and change my spending habits, not control them because I don't believe in control and discipline and all that stuff, but like how to change those habits. But like as soon as that was accomplished, I was like, wow, I'm still not financially free. That means that I still have to work towards an income. What the hell does that even look like? And what became clear to me was, well, I also want to get back to traveling, that it was great that I did what I had to. I'd gotten a But I've always been a traveler. I've spent most of my adult life from the time I was 21 moving from country to country, right? And always having something on the side, running my own. Before those businesses and I'd get into debt and get into all sorts of things. So I didn't know what to do. So then I took on a job and started running Wealthy Money slowly as a side hustle, right? And so that's when I started. And the bank account course was great for that because it helped me with changing those spending habits and starting to slowly pay off debt. Had I known what I know now, though, what I teach in the Money Magic course, I feel like I would have gotten out of paid off my $60,000 in debt faster than 4 years, right? I feel like knowing magic course and watching people do what I did in like a shorter space of time, I know that I would have done that faster. But I didn't right? And all this has come. The reason why I'm able to teach this and why I'm able to share with people is because I've gone through that journey. I've learned through trial and error. So I'm able to more in depth in the Money Magic course because of this, right? So I'm realizing, sharing Jane's story, some of the response are like, yay, that is amazing. Then I went on the Wealthy Money page. People are like in disbelief. They don't believe it's possible. And I've also had people ask me questions like, can anyone afford your retreats? Listen, guys, I'm not even going to front or joke or even like pretend that I know that my retreats for some people, once people hear the pricing of my work, some of them want to fall off a chair or they want to go on a riot, right? But the real question that people should be asking is, A, why is it that I take only people from my course to for my retreats? Why do I insist that people come into the Money Magic course before they go on the retreats? And why is it that people come on one retreat, get out of the retreat and go, oh my God, that was amazing, and sign up for the retreat the next year, sign up for another retreat before I even have time to announce the retreats, they sign up for the next retreat the next year? Those are the questions that you guys should be asking, not asking like, can anyone afford those retreats? It's to ask, why is it that people keep going back? Why is it that after people have spent that money, they can come out and buy houses? People quit jobs, start businesses, ever made, start depositing more money in their bank accounts than they've ever deposited before. These are the questions that you should really be asking. It's like, what is going on in those retreats and why do people want to keep going back and paying that money? And no, there's nothing weird going on that is out of the ordinary. Everything that we work with is everything within the body, right? We're just taking it up a notch and using collective energy. So I know, but like those responses kind of got me into the student group this morning. And I was so triggered, I guess, because I was like, wow, how can people, someone asked like, are you for real about Jane's story? Didn't believe that this was possible. Firstly, let me start by saying that a lot of the Money Magic students and a lot of people, I would say at least 40 people that are on Facebook and involved with Wealthy Money have met Jane in person, have seen her story evolve, have seen it start from the beginning where Jane had nothing and have seen it grow, have actually talked to her and know her as a person. Some of them have her WhatsApp numbers and follow her story, and she tells it's not, I promise you, Jane is a very real person. She is not a made up person. And if you don't know who Jane is, let me just quickly do a quick debrief on here, right? So Jane is this girl that came to me. I shared this in the Facebook group, so you can also watch here or on the Facebook page. I shared it yesterday, but she is a girl that came to me in the village. In 2018, I decided to renovate my mother's house. Why? And I will share that because I noticed that I don't really share what goes on in my own money story. I'm just sharing with you guys the testimonials, and I'm not sharing how this money story, but through me doing the work, it has changed the way that I relate with money, with my family, and even for my family. How my aunt, through doing this work and through teaching her, has retired early, has gotten into real estate, built her own real estate. A video for me, so I'm gonna get the video. It's somewhere in this group and share it with you guys. How my sister's money story has also changed, how my sister actually posts in the student group as well, how my cousins have changed their money story from doing the inner work as well, how my cousin went from not having a job to being a psychiatric nurse to building a 3-roomed house to getting land to now talking about traveling to now wanting to go abroad. And my cousin is not even 30 yet, right? I'm talking about people that are still young. So it's not like work experience or anything, and how I've been the same work on the to me. So it's not that I'm making up these people or that the students are making up the stories. And I wasn't aware until yesterday that there were some people that are like, oh, no, it's not possible, or it will only work for certain people. Let's talk about that, right? So Jane came to my mom's place in the village, and and I had just I was in the process of renovating my mom's house. And as I was in the process of renovating my mom's house, I also decided to tell the students, I'm going to host a retreat for two groups. So if everyone comes to the house, they can come, we can all do a retreat, and I'll take 10 people at a time. So I was under pressure because people were already paying for food, they were already paying for their retreat things. And on top of that, money for the retreat, they had to pay into my mother's bank account directly as a donation. Story for another day. I will explain how all that worked and why I did that, right? So, and anyway, I never got any of that money, but I was like, I'm going to donate my time. Do you guys want to come? And of course, the students were like, amazing. All the Money Magic students were like, we see how this work has changed. It would be nice to do a collective retreat at the village. Let's come. We want to meet your mom. We want to see, we also just want to have a retreat, right? We want to see how this will work out. But I'm hosting a retreat in the village. I didn't know who could help me. I wanted to do the retreats. The way that I run the retreats in the village is that for the students. So everything is vegan. We have breakfast, we have morning tea at 11. So everyone always complains because it's constant eating and eating and eating, right? So we start with yoga, we have breakfast, we have like a full vegan breakfast, massive. Then we have morning tea, all vegan, right? Then we have from morning tea, we have lunch. Then we have afternoon tea. And then we have for all this, I need help because I'm not just doing the cooking, but I'm also running a retreat. So I realized that, oh, okay, I need to figure out how to run these retreats. And I used to do catering and run an events company with one of my friends in Cape Town. And we used to do it as a hobby, and then we tried to do it professionally. But I learned so much about running events that I was just like, I think if I applied the same principles, I can also I can run this retreat this way. So Jane came, and then uh, my mom was like, well, you're looking for someone. What if you hire Jane? Because she'd come to drop off money from her uncle that her uncle owed my mother. So then I was like, okay, cool. I like her energy. This could be easy. I taught her. I noticed that she was very, very one of the, you guys don't know me because you're only seeing me on Facebook, right? But in person, I'm one of those people that ask a lot of personal questions of people, and I don't know why, I just do. And people always feel like, okay, we're going to. I asked Jane about her life, where she was at, and I'm a money person, so I ask instantly about money, where she is with money, how's her finances going. Then she told me, like when she got offered the job to come help me at the retreat, she was literally praying for 100 Rand, which is about $7 to be able to buy her daughter Christmas shoes. So obviously I hear that, and then I'm like, okay, so now that once the retreats are done, how are you going to make money? So she's just like, well, I'm going to go look for a job, and maybe someone will hire me because I just have matric, which is grade 12. So she's just written her grade 12, and she doesn't have a university degree. Employment options are available. Hopefully she'll eventually one day be able to go study and get a degree. So my question is, and in the meantime, as you're trying to figure out this degree, raising a child, how are you going to do? Really love, feel like I want to give back. I want to be here. I've never been those girls that grew up and wants to leave the village. And she tells me that she's 25. She fell pregnant at 18 during her matric. So that's been part of the challenge, right? So like, okay, great. I understand the situation in the village. So I asked her, what is your passion? I didn't say to her, what can you sell? What can you do? I just asked her, what is your passion? I do a lot of the same thing with clients, with students. I don't believe that there's only one way that you're going to make money, right? It's all at the end of the day, even if you go into an industry that is selling out like hotcakes, if your mindset and your trauma assorted, your mindset isn't 100%, and your money traumas and money issues haven't been sorted out. The industry will work for others, but it won't work for you. It will be an intensely high flying industry where everybody's talking about making tons of money with ease, but it won't work for you because you've got other things that are blocking money, right? And in the same way, you can go into a dull industry where now people are like, oh my God, it takes forever to make money. And you can literally transform it and be killing it, right? So it's not about the industry, right? So that's why I didn't ask her, what is a money making thing? I just asked her, what is she passionate about? Because that's the other thing, is that I figured that if she's talk about that, then she'll want to do that thing and she'll be willing to wake up and push it, right? So I asked her a bunch of questions. We figured it out. And she said she loves food, right? So she loves food. I mean, I guess there's things that she could do with fitness and was she was like, she really loves food. And the thing that was happening at the retreat was, she said what she loved was how people were responding to the vegan food that I was cooking, right? And how people were going crazy about it. And she was like, wow, she had never also imagined vegan being like that. So I said, okay, there's one thing that I think if you do it, that I know everybody likes. So she and I had a conversation. I said, what do you think people love the most in the food? So I make this crazy chili mix made. I add my own stuff, you know. I'm not going to share with you guys because this is people's bread and butter now, because I've given this recipe to several people and I've taught some of them how to build a business from this after Jane. So sharing the recipe would literally like tank their business, right? So I won't do that. But I created this mix. I love creating new dishes and new things. So I created this green chili mix. And so I said to Jane, I'm going to teach you this recipe. And if I teach you this recipe and I teach you how to price it and I coach you through how to sell this chili, will you do the work? Will you do what I'm teaching you? And she did. She said yes. And at first I was like, okay, we'll see. You know, I really didn't take it seriously. So 3 months later, I left the village, left her with the instructions. We would keep in touch via voice note. She would get stuck with certain things. I would answer questions. I would ask her questions and then basically through certain mindset. I would like see some of the hurdles, ask her questions so that she goes and she answers them, give her some exercises to do, basic exercises. Then I went away. Went to Morocco, came back, chilled out. Then I had another 2 retreats in the village. This was in my 19 now. So I came back and Jane she had to help me again with the 2 retreats. And she tells me, she goes, oh my God, I am now the main supplier of chilies to all the village stores. You know, so in 3 months, she made herself the main supplier. She started getting clients. Not only that, she had used the money to go write her learners and get her driver's license. It was mind boggling to me that she'd been doing this in like 3 months. And suddenly her she was telling me this. Then we started going into a conversation where she was like, but I seem to have a problem. Money doesn't stay in my account. So I'm making now the money, as fast as I'm making it, it's leaving. So I can't see what I do with it. So ta-da! Start teaching her some things about the bank account challenge. I gave her a 30-day exercise that she had to do. And it's kind of tedious, but she did it, right? For 30 days, Jane did this exercise nonstop. And when she saw the shift, she came back. Oh my God, I see a shift. I think last year I was back in Sri Lanka. So April 2019, I came to Sri Lanka out that we were talking, and then we started having conversations, and I started saying to her, we need to start talking about an extra stream of income. I love this. So by August, though, something happened in the village around the chili, right? The chili, she met one of her best friends, right? You guys, stories. So one of her best friends had been watching her do the chilies, but Jane had been smart because I told her, don't give the recipe, because really I taught her about business having a competitive advantage, right? Tell your friend all the other things of how to run a chili business, how to do whatever, but your main thing, this is to enter. So the one thing, in order necessary competition, don't tell them your recipe, right? So she never did, right? But her friend watched her do all this. She taught her friend, and I was saying to her, teach your friend so that your friend something else. Whatever I'm teaching you, feel free to tell your friend, to teach your friend, so your friend can start a business in something else, in clothes, whatever her passion is, right? Because her friend's passion is not food. So whatever your friend's passion is, teach her what I've taught you. And in that way, she can also start to do that. So Jane did that. I think her friend, understanding the importance of healing and understanding your trauma and your own stuff, replicated Jane's chili business. Not only did she replicate this business, she literally made it like second grade. She wasn't adding the spices. She was just doing whatever bare minimum things she had seen Jane buy. She was just adding the mix the proper way, doing the cooking the proper way, not even adding the right ingredients. But she came and she started selling it at 50% off, right? People in the village were like, oh, this must be the same chili that everybody. Jane is selling hers at a higher price for the cheaper option with a friend. So in July, right? July, August, because now her friend has started to business in the village and has capitalized. Back to the village as well. We sit down, we have a proper coaching session because this is a real challenge. So we sit down and I ask her about a bunch of questions, a whole new strategy. I need to leave the village. So many people need to get beyond the village. So who can help? Live in different towns. So how can she work with her mom and her brother so that they are keen? They also get something from it, and she continues to sell the chili, right? And in that session, we come up with an extra stream of income, which is chips, which we had been talking about, which if you're listening and you're not South African, it's French fries. Then we start having, we do more coaching around that, because remember, again, it's like every time we expand, it's about mindset. And what most of us think when I talk about mindset and coaching is that most people, I realize, think it's getting an aha moment, like watching videos, reading a book, and then you get these aha moments and that produces a shift. Yes, but for lasting, for deep and true change, this is where we do the real inner work. This is where we do the meditations, we do the questioning, we sit with the work, we go back into the trauma. So we do that with Jane, right? Which is what we do. I didn't do a lot with her, right? Because I'm not trying to overwhelm her and I'm not there all the time, but we just do the basics around increasing income and setting an income goal. So then, and I promised her that I would gift her the chip machine, because I really because I'm so excited about this whole thing, right? So in my head, I was like, well, if I can gift her a machine for 2,000 Rand, and from that machine, she makes all this extra profit. By now, she's paid back the chip machine 3 times over. She never had to pay me back. But imagine if she had bought it for herself and she had spent it, she's paid it back 3 times. Oh, she would have paid it back 3 times over with her current profits, right? Actually, more than 3 times, almost 4 times over, right? So then she started this chip business, and before long then she's been making a profit, right? So this month she reported a profit of 2,750 rand, which is not a lot in the scheme of things. But get this, right? Land in the village can go for between 15 to 25,000 rand, right? So I say to Jane, we need to talk about passive income, but I don't use fancy like passive income. I always have to use fancy words to explain things, because sometimes these are the things that trip us up and we make them bigger than they are, right? So I'm just like, oh, Jane, how interesting, how awesome would it be if you could save for like 5 or 6 months and then you can buy land? And how awesome would it be if you do what your aunt does? Because living off this, right? So her aunt built 3 back rooms and has 3 tenants and is living off that money and is also selling stuff, right? So I said to her, what if you do what your aunt does, but we take it up just a notch? So unlike your aunt, you build something like that's a studio that has the full kitchen, bathroom, everything fully furnished, and then you rent this out to young nurses and doctors who move in, who come to the village for work. At least a salary of about 2,000 to 3,000, who can afford to pay rent in the realm of like 2,500 to 3,000 rand, right? But then we sit down and we like, oh, we know builders in the village who can build at a very affordable price. We also know in the village people I used when I was renovating my mom's place, who also can build cupboards and decent things that if you design, they can build things down. And we talk, and I'm like, what if you just get land? This year's goal is to grow this other income stream and you get land, right? So if she puts aside, right now she's making 2,750 rand in profit, she's already saved in the region of like 10 to 12,000 rand in savings since we've been working together in the last 14 months. Do you guys think that is possible for Jay? Right? Like the land is 15,000 rand. So in another 2 or 3 months, Jane can own a sizable piece of land. And on there, we've spoken, you can fit in about 4 or 5 studio apartments, right? So once you've done that, is it possible that maybe you can fit in like really cute studio apartments for the nurses and the doctors, put in 4 or 5? Yes, it's possible. So she can easily, within the next year, start to earn an extra 8 to 10,000 rand in monthly income, in passive income. So Jane went from zero, but at the end of next year, we're looking at her making this passive income of 8 to 10,000 rand. So do you guys see that this is possible? It's not within the reality. And we're not talking that, oh my God, first she needs to make tons and tons of money to be able to do this. We're working with the resources that she has. And I teach this in the Money Magic course, right? It's like, how do we work with our blocks, whatever is blocking us from seeing the things that are in front of us? So when someone says to me, are you for real? I'm like, I feel like I've really experienced. This is not something that is happening overnight. And this is something that there are hiccups along the way. Like I've shared that, yes, she has hiccups. Like the village, her friend entered the market. And as soon as her friend entered the market, a bunch of other people in the village realized that, oh my God, there's a market here. And they started entering the market. Challenge with the village, though, is that only one store in the village carries these specific types of green chilies, right? Not green peppers. And she is supplying a lot of people. So when the competition entered the market, it made it impossible for her to always have a constant supply of green chilies. So for most of us, we would then be like, oh my God, oh, what do I have to do, and spin our wheels. But I was like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's use the very lesson that I teach in the Money Magic course, lesson 4, how to utilize our resources. And I sent it to Jane. I didn't tell her what to do, right? That's not my job as a coach. I asked a bunch of questions, tailored the lesson to her situation. And she came back and she said, oh, I've looked at the resource strategy and how to utilize my resources, thought about it. I've got a house and there is a yard in the was her mom works elsewhere, and so she gets to work, so between they get to live in this house and with her daughter, and sometimes other family members come to visit, but she's the one that is the main caretaker of the house and the yard. So she decided, I can use the land, I can plant green chilies, right? I can actually plant chilies. I don't have to go and look for a supplier. I can become my own supplier. So just with a change in her mindset, she was able to completely change her business. So where run out of chilies, she's got, and if she's got too many clients for the month, her mom and her brother will. So another business came up with was, you know what, taxi drivers are constantly going from the village every day. There's two or three taxis, her mom's town, right, where her mom works. So she can talk, and because it's a village, we all know each other, right? We all talk to each other. We all kind of, even I know some of the taxi drivers, right? Like I know a bunch of them. So because it's a village, go talk to the people. It's not like in a city. You've got an advantage. You've grown up with these people. You know the taxi drivers. So ask them if they can pick up chilies from your mom. And when they come back the next day on the taxi route, they can just give you call, and you can go to their homes and pick up the chilies, or go pick up the chilies from the taxi rank, or go pick up the chilies along the way when they drive past on the main road in the village. And that's literally what's been happening. So she's been utilizing her resources and just changing the mindset. So what gets most of us stuck, right? So for most people, it would be like, oh, I see the challenge of, oh, the green chilies. Oh, this is no longer a viable business. I have to get out of the business of chili selling now. No, because there's a whole other humans that are wanting chili, and they may not live in your town. You need to figure out a way to find them, right? So this is not impossible. And Jane is able to do this in working for, and sometimes not even that much, right? So I've taught her a bunch of ways on ease, questions to ask to get to of making things easier, especially in business. So I'm slowly working her through the income challenge. I am not bombarding her do with the Money Magic students, but this is not impossible. So when we talk of financial freedom, just like I used to think it was becoming debt free or working for yourself or working for your salary, I realized that that's not actually what financial freedom is about. Being able to get yourself into a point like what we're talking, Jane, where you no longer have to just rely on money made through sales this month, but creating passive income. That money is made whether or not you have clients every month, right? And one of the easiest ways is real estate, right? And the reason why I chose real estate for Jane is because she sees her aunt doing it with the back rooms. And when I say we're just going to make it nicer than your aunt so that more, and we're going to go after the nurses and doctors, she gets it, right? That's a simple model. It doesn't have to be more difficult than that. But what trips most of us up, and what I'm seeing from the questions that people are asking, is that there's a disbelief that this is possible. And I'm just like, but I've just explained how this is possible. You know, it's like, it's not as impossible as we have been led to believe to start creating passive income. And I promise you, at the end of next year, once the land has been bought and the first buildings are up, I'm going to start talking to Jane about what if you buy the second piece of land and you start building on that and you start looking for more people. And then we're going to start having a conversation about her going to university, which I've told her about, right? And how that passive income can start to pay for university. And Jane and I have already had conversations around like, well, once you start getting the passive income, some tenants can go towards paying for UNISA. So you can start studying at home. So by the time you apply to go study at university, you already have some credits that you can from the study at home course. And also, better yourself, that means that you have better ways. You'll meet other people that can also help you with your daughter and getting her in better schools. So guys, this is so not as impossible as we've made it out to be. And I agree, it's not as easy as I'm making it out to be. Right? Because as you can hear, there were challenges. And the one thing that I keep pushing is to say it's about the inner work. The challenges didn't disappear. From doing the inner work, Jane didn't suddenly always find chili at the shop. The main shop that sells the chili, by the way, is Boxer, right? So she didn't suddenly wake up and go to Boxer and find chili. And that going with her, right? Because at the end of the day, she'll still have that competition. It was, okay, what can you do to make this chili issue a non-essential issue, right? And how do you circumvent that? And that required her to just slowly shift her thinking, to ask questions, to go through her panic and anxiety, because she also got panicked and anxious, right? She was excited in building this business, and then suddenly her best friend, whom she was like, she had to block because it was becoming ridiculous. She was like basically doing everything she was doing, and crazy, her friend, she was like, oh, she called me also because, again, the emotional stuff is what trips us up, right? And she was like, oh my God, Sis Vangile, that's what she calls me. She's like, Sis Vangile, my friend is calling me every day. She now insists that for our friendship to continue, she needs the recipe for the chili. And I was like, well, let's work through this, because again, it's the fear of it's a classic fear of losing love, right? That, oh my God, someone is going to withdraw their love if I don't get what they want, but this is my livelihood. So do I contract myself and stop my expansion so that I can get their love and their expansion? And I just literally took her through that process. I didn't go, oh my God, your friend is so horrible, block her, etc. When she decided, okay, this is not a friendship, that came from her, right? I just provided the work, asked the questions, told her to sit with them, and then she got to her own conclusion. So again, there's a lot of like emotion. For Jane, it's on a smaller scale, but we all go through that in our business. Most of us, what's happening is that we're literally staying in jobs we don't like, in situations we don't like, because we believe that this is the only way that we can make money, right? And we're like, oh, we don't have money. We don't have a terrible money story because I'm able to spend less money, and I've the bank account challenge. I'm able to just work with the little money that I have. But I'm like, for us to reach the passive income scale at a faster rate, I'm not saying to Jane, oh, we're just going to work with the chili business. No, I'm like, we're going to work with the chip business as well. And we have another strategy, two strategies on how to triple the income from the chip business by June. So hopefully the profits that she's making by June from the chip business will be in the region of at least 8,000 Rand a month. Now she'll be able to put away 8,000 Rand a month and just save that, because she's only living off the cash from the first stream of income, right? Which means building the buildings is a dream that is much more possible than either one of us thought, right? It can happen at a faster pace imagined. So this is the thing. not aware of that. So when I'm talking about money magic, and I'm talking about the money magic course, and I'm talking about financial expansion and financial freedom, I'm not talking about just keep up just being able to curb your expenses and having savings. I'm talking about building something beyond what we can imagine, building something that doesn't make us reliant on other people. So if we lose our jobs, we have something to fall back on, right? This is so, so important to understand. This is why the Property Magicians podcast exists. This is why we do the inner work. This is why I keep preaching about the Money Magic course. And now on to the other comment that people have been making, that's not people, one person made this comment is, afford your retreats, right? So there is, and I'm getting it, there is this whole kind of thing that, oh, well, no, I can't, what's the purpose of this and who can afford it? As if, here's the problem that I have with that statement. It's assuming that everyone in the world is able to afford the retreats, or that these retreats are something out like that. This is money, right? And the minute I shared that in the student group, the students were like, we're affording the retreats, and we're not going broke. We're not losing out on savings. We're not losing out on investments. For me, when someone asks that question, it shows that there is something about the way that we're seeing this limited resource that needs to be held onto for dear life. And I'm just going to ask you a simple question. If money is a lover and you hold on to your lover for dear life and you think they are the only one in the world, have you, like most of us know what it's like to date a man, and you do that, right? And you're like, you praise him, you hold on for dear life, and you go, oh, he is my bread and butter, he is my only one. What is that man going to do, right? Like, how does that relationship play out? It's like, whoa, there's a lot there, right? So it's not about the pricing of the retreats. It's not about the pricing of my products often. I feel like, and I've seen this often, it's about the way that we are looking at things. It's the way that we're seeing, oh my God, 60,000 Rand, it is so much money. It is so impossible. And yet there are people out there that are doing this. The real questions that we should be asking is, how are they doing that? Literally how I was able to start traveling is like, I asked myself, okay, it feels impossible that I can build a business and travel all the time. So how are other people doing that? Even if it's not tons of people doing that, how are they able to do this? And when I didn't know what I didn't know, I got a coach. This is what I honestly did. I was like, F it, I don't know the answer to this. I got a business coach. And within like 2-3 months, I started traveling. The business coach charged me 10,000 Rand a month to coach me on this. Do you think I am complaining today that I paid that much money to learn this? No, because I learned what I needed to learn in that 6-month period. And I started traveling and building a business. So it's not, the minute we do that, and what I find often is that we exclude ourselves out of opportunities. We become our own stumbling blocks because what we tell ourselves is no one can do that. And yet we live in a world where people are able to buy planes, they are able to buy yachts, they're able to buy all sorts of things, or people are able to afford private schooling for like 5 children. Even I don't know how to do that, right? I'm like, yo, people have 5 kids and all these kids are in private school. Yo, okay, that's intense. But people are able to do that. So it means that it is not impossible. This thing, there is something that we don't know. So if you don't know something, ask people, find out so that you can learn. And this is how we grow. And this is the thing that I realize about Jane. When she realizes that she's stuck, part of why things are moving so fast for her, like even her mom has come to the party and it's like, I want to help because I'm seeing progress here and I'm loving where this vision is going, right? Is because she literally asks, she goes, oh, I'm simple. Like, but my friend is messing with my business and my emotions. And she now knows that emotions are a thing. You don't just ignore those things, right? So, because someone makes you uncomfortable, you don't go and you start screaming at them or whatever. You do the work and then the answers will come. And that's what she's been doing. So, okay, that's been a bit long. I'm super passionate about this topic because it's something that I'm realizing and I wasn't even aware, right? So, Latia says, "Oh, I know Jane. I met her twice." Yes, Latia, you love Jane, right? And she let you, Jane let Latia into my mom's house and helped her into my mom's yard when my mom was in Sri Lanka. So I gifted my mom a trip last year in 2019, a trip to Sri Lanka and Thailand. So she was away for about she came to tour Sri Lanka. She went for 2 weeks at a retreat in Thailand. And when she was there, Latia wanted green mangoes, ended up in the village, wanted green mangoes. And voila, who did I contact? Because my mom had left her keys with Jane. And so I told her to go to Jane, and Jane came, helped Latia get her green mangoes. And not only that, she also gave Latia green mangoes from her own garden, right? So, yeah, it was really, really awesome. So, there's all this, it's such a small story, but can you guys see how just this whole story has just evolved into so many? I'm also I'm able to see what are some of the mistakes that people make. So, after all this, let me just remind you guys that if you are feeling stuck and you're having a problem with spending money and you still don't know how to change that and how to work with that and how to curb that, I am running the bank account challenge live once a quarter now, but you need to sign up for the bank account challenge course, right? So if you go to wealthymoneyacademy.com, just go to fall in love with your bank account and join the course. It's a 5-day course. You can start it right now. All the previous lessons, all the worksheets, everything is on the course. So you do the course at your own pace, but then you do it once more with me once a quarter. I know it has been life changing for people in terms of their relationship with how they spend money and their bank account, checking their bank account, how they budget, etc. And we did that. There's a lesson 5, there's a whole brand new lesson in lesson 5, because in the challenge course before, my final lesson was the masterclass. Day 5 was the masterclass. So now day 5 is a whole different lesson. I've taken one of the lessons from the Money Magic course and put it into the bank account challenge. So that's really, really quite awesome, I feel. So, and we'll be doing all this at our own, together as a group once a quarter. So if you know that your problem is beyond just spending money and you are finding yourself and getting into a cycle of paying off debt, recreating debt, or you're feeling stuck in terms of income, then I would recommend that you join us for the masterclass. So for that, go to wealthy-money.com/masterclass, or just go to wealthymoneyacademy.com, go to masterclass and enroll for the masterclass that will be happening in April, right? Because during that masterclass, I will open up for the money. So that what you really want and what you're wanting to be working on is the money magic course. Phew. Okay, so that's it for me. Let me know if this resonates, if it makes sense, if you had any aha moments from this video. Let me know in the comment section. I can't wait to hear from you. Phew. Oh God, yeah, and definitely keep challenging me with the comments. I genuinely love that people post that. I mean, at first I'm like triggered and annoyed, and I'm like, who says such things? But then I realized that that's because I also thought like that at one point, right? I also thought that when I saw people traveling, building their businesses, doing things, I would think, no, that's a lie. No one can just do that, right? When people would report their income for the month and tell me things, I'd be like, no. But now it's like such a part of my life and such a part of my existence that it's become my normal. And I have to remind myself that I started there, right? This was my mindset. London and crying at to one of my cousins and telling him, I can't do this. I will never be able to do this, right? It's impossible. Then I went out to dinner with a friend and I spoke about that. I want to travel and I want to build a business, but this is impossible. I can't do it. This is not possible. How will I make a constant income? How will I pay for right? It's part of the process, this disbelief, this belief that you won't do it. But I think the difference between people who do it and don't are the people that go like, I have disbelief, let me go and find out how others are doing it, right? And let me put my all into it and making that shift. That's what I had to do. It's not, yeah, it's miraculous in some way, but it's also not, so it's not impossible and not a miracle. These are things that you can work through and do and change your life as well. So thanks, guys. Cheers.